thrown at Briahna Joy Gray, especially over the past week. Now, some those may be some fake accounts. It may be real people. I don't know, but it's not hard to believe that because these accounts still exist on Twitter while they were deleted off of or by Facebook on their social media pages, because they still exist on Twitter, it isn't crazy to imagine that they're using this to target people who are critical of Israel on various sites like The Hill as well. Now, also, just to be clear, so her co-host Robbie, who is I guess a libertarian, he's a right winger. I think he's terrible, but she defends him here, saying, to be clear, Robbie did not know, has objected, and shouldn't be blamed. And Craig McIver, who used to work at the UN, recently resigned, is now now describes himself as just a human rights lawyer and justice campaigner, global citizen. Replies saying the fact that so many vile racist and genocide apologists are celebrating your departure is proof of your important impact. The Hill is the loser here. I know your critical, courageous, principled voice will continue to inform, inspire, and speak truth to power. See you at Bad Faith. So this gets to, I'm just going to show a couple examples because the replies to this initial tweet of the announcement, there's over 7,500 replies. A lot of them are absolutely disgusting. Like this one here. She writes, not going to platform these people except to point out that this is the tone of the average Zionist in my mention. Blatant racism. Fundamentally, their approach in Gaza is contingent on racial supremacist arguments, so it's not surprising. I'm going to avoid saying some words here, but this person replied to her saying, just letting you know, if you and your family were all slaughtered, the people of Gaza would celebrate your deaths. Keep rolling your eyes. You unemployed now. Remember this, Palestinians effed around and they're finding out. You did the same, you effed around and you found out. This is very much in line with a lot of the replies that she is receiving on her tweets. And even before she was fired, like this example. Tweeting out here, why are wheelchair users catching a stray? Are these Zionists trying to make themselves deeply unlikable? Somebody replied to her with this. DEI Barbie is one of the phrases that has, especially over the past week or so, been used against Briahna Joy Gray to attack her. It's just gross, and it really showcases the mindset of the people who are happy about her firing. Now, let me show you a clip of some of the great work that she has done in her critique of Israel. I also want to be clear here as well. I think if you've watched me long enough, there are topics where I disagree with Briahna Joy Gray on, and I've not hidden that. I think it's fine to have political disagreements. I think it's also important to acknowledge when someone does fantastic work. So despite those disagreements that I may have had, or I may have still with Briahna Joy Gray on various issues, that doesn't mean that her work here should be dismissed. So this is an example of one of her radars, as they're called. My last two radars have been the most popular videos that The Hill has put out recently. Both are critical of the plausible genocide being committed by Israel.
It's a deeply segregated society in Israel, where 98% of Jews say all or most of their friends are Jewish, and 85% of Muslims say the same. I don't think you'll hear Mar speak up for Palestinian Christians either. Remember, former Congressman Justin Amash lost several relatives when Israel bombed a Christian Orthodox church in Gaza, where people had been sheltering along with sleeping children and babies. 150 to 200 people were killed in that attack by Israel. Israel is a country that imposes segregated roads for Jews and Arabs. This map shows how Palestinians are forced through checkpoints, where they're forced to wait for hours and are subjugated to humiliating treatment. As one Palestinian doctor explained, my family members cross this checkpoint at 4 a.m., then sleep in their car until they start work at 8 a.m. This is apartheid.
All right, so that was just 1 minute of a 20-minute segment, but it gives you an idea of the kind of criticisms that Briahna Joy Gray has been lobbing at the Israeli government, the accurate criticisms. Now, this is what a lot of her haters, I guess, for lack of a better term here, are quoting to try and claim that this is why she deserved to be fired. So I'm going to cut out the person's name here. I also have to, unfortunately, dance around the main topic of discussion here because it's on YouTube, and YouTube is known to pull down videos discussing certain sensitive topics, but you can see the word on screen. You'll know what I'm talking about. But this was shared saying, how can any reputable media outlet retain you when you roll your eyes at a woman pleading with you to believe, phrase I can't say, victims from October 7th? You did this on their network under their branding. Of course you were fired. I'm going to show you this clip, and then I'm going to show you or give you greater context around this.
Thank you. Me too. And I really hope that you specifically will believe women when they say that they got hurt.
All right. Thanks for joining. Stick around. More Rising coming up next.
All right. So, Briahna Joy Gray rolled her eyes while this sister of a hostage victim was discussing you should believe women. Let's first just discuss this aspect briefly here. This has been disputed by the New York Times itself, which were the initial reporters about this topic. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. Of course it may have happened. But in terms of the actual reporting about this, it has been disputed. As Vanity Fair writes here, The Intercept reported that the Times had planned to air an episode of The Daily weeks earlier. The Daily is their podcast that was based on a December Times investigation led by Pulitzer Prize winner Jeffrey Gettleman and co-authored by freelancers Annette Schwartz and Adam Sella about how Hamas weaponized that in the October attack on Israel. But the paper shelved that episode amid a furious internal debate about the strength of the paper's original reporting on the subject. The New York Times realized, and there's a deeper piece on this in The Intercept about Annette Schwartz, and essentially the things that were made up for the initial piece from December, that the New York Times then realized there's not much to any of this. So that goes to directly why Briahna Joy Gray had this kind of reaction. Not to mention, in addition to this, this is a clip out of context. Right before this was a long discussion where, look, I'm not going to disparage this guest because their sister's a victim, but they have clearly been fed a lot of propaganda, and just as many people living in Israel have for years, that they unfortunately have fallen under and believe. And a lot of that propaganda was being spread during this episode. Let me show you just the moment that happened right before.
If the world won't help us, we will see 9/11 the second time in the U.S. as well. Because we can already see in the United States, in Michigan, rallies that's calling death to America, not condemning terror organizations in Israel or any other place. In fact, is reflecting to your country as well.
I'm just going to push back against the implication that in Michigan, which has the largest Muslim and Arab population in America, that there is any threat of terrorism from our own people. And I would like to clarify also that one of the rationale that was presented for 9/11 was discussed with America's support of Israel's continued occupation of Palestine. So that's neither here nor there. I really do hope that Netanyahu agrees and Israel agrees to the ceasefire deal that could bring all the hostages, including your sister, home. And I'm sure many people watching are praying for her safety.
That was the clip directly before the one that is being cut and shared on social media. This guest fear-mongered Arabs living in Michigan, as if that's going to bring about a 9/11 too. And again, this is the end of a longer discussion where Briahna Joy Gray had to sit through a lot of propaganda being thrown at her. So I can totally understand somebody at the end of that conversation getting annoyed at just how much she had to listen to that has been disputed again and again and again. And again, recognizing, I'm glad Briahna Joy Gray recognized at the end there, Netanyahu is the barrier to the hostages coming home. He is the one that has not agreed to a ceasefire. Over and over again, leadership in Gaza has agreed to a ceasefire. It has been Netanyahu, Israeli prime minister, that has not agreed to it. A couple last things here, just some comments from Twitter. My buddy Mike Figueredo tweeting out, compare that number of leftist hosts The Hill Rising has fired to the number of right-wing hosts they fired. That gives you a clue as to who's actually challenging power. As far as I know, The Hill has never fired a single right-wing host. So going to his point, it's very clear the kind of voices that are being silenced.